Alright, so let's have a look at your final comp and then let's analyze the final comp, and then we'll go and actually look at the comp inside of Nuke and have a look at what's happening there. Alright, so first things first, let's quickly just help this guy to cache there. Why is he not caching? Oh, there we go. He's just struggling a little bit there. I'm gonna go back there. Okay. So first things first, let's just look at your general tracking. I think that's often something that gives away, that something is looking a bit strange. And a good way to do that is just to actually, it's a little trick, is you can track something in the shot and stabilize it, and that'll give you a really good view of what's going on. So I like to do that. I like to just come in here. Let's go to let's start off with let's cheat. Let's start off with frame 6. Let's start off with frame 10, and let's just track what can we track in here? Let's track that white dot. That should be quite easy enough. Off we go. Yep, cool. Let's go back here and let's track that backwards. Oh, that's breaking. So let's just do the last couple frames by hand. Yep. Something like this. Okay. Alright, now that we have that, it's really easy because you can set this tracker to stabilize using 1 point. And then if you watch your shot through the eyes of the tracker, it's quite interesting to see where things are slipping and moving around, because now theoretically you have a static background. All of a sudden it becomes quite apparent where your track is sliding. So if we look over here, we can definitely see there's some sliding happening over here, and that's something that we need to look at. Same with this guy over here. There's definitely some sliding happening at the beginning here, also over here. So I would definitely classify this as not a successful track. This is something to retrack in order to improve on. And yeah, I don't think this would necessarily pass as a possible track. But let's carry on and have a look at some other things. Let's look at integration, color. The size of this robot feels a little bit small, but maybe it's not. Maybe that's just the size that you have decided he is. And that is totally fine. We've got some weird distortion thing happening here, and that's probably your eye distort. Maybe set too high to create that distortion. Your black levels, let's just gain this all the way up, and you can actually see over here that this color, for example, I just want to grab my pen tool. This color over here and the color on him is definitely not matching, like that and that black level or that black level. If we just go up, you can see that this is way kind of darker, and that's one of the first things that's throwing off this comp, not throwing it away. But matching these black levels, that's so important, because that's what makes it seem like the object is really living in the scene. You've got another little bit of a tracking issue over here, where that line over here that you rotoed is moving. It's quite obvious over here that it's moving. It also feels like, and I don't know if this is true, but it feels like this explosion is on top of the lens flare. It probably isn't, but that's what it feels like, or looks like rather, when you watch it. So that's going to be a problem, and we're going to have to solve that. Also, this guy is looking really sharp compared to things over here. If you look at this line, these lines over here, they're quite soft. And then if you compare it to him over here, it's quite sharp. This looks a lot better, but I would say this robot and these elements over here are much too sharp, and we definitely need to blur them a little bit more. The lens flare, okay, so the lens flare is, it's doing something, I don't know exactly what it's doing, but it's doing a little bit of a strange shake at the beginning there. It feels like it's your track that's sliding and not really doing what it's supposed to be doing. Where's those? I like to make the sound effects every time I look at these comps. But you're going to have to find a way to just look at the track and why that's happening. And you know what? Let's dive right into this now and have a look at it. Okay, so first things, your tracks. You've got all your tracks here, which is great. I find it quite confusing over here. I'm just going to move all of that right over here because I don't. They just confuse me over here. I don't really know what the point is of them over there. And then just to give myself a little bit more space to work, actually, I'm just going to move that up and, you know, I'm just going to move these down a little bit. I'm just feeling claustrophobic. Okay, so let's break this down. That's our main background. If all these lines get in the way and they really irritate you, you can just hide all of them by hitting Alt-E and they all disappear. So let's have a look at our background plate. Okay, our background plate, nothing special there. We've got all our trackers, tracking robot, tracking hull, ship, tracking explosion, road. Let's have a quick look at this though, because it's definitely something that's wrong here that we need to troubleshoot. So I want to have a look at what this is tracking. Why can't I see what it's tracking? Okay, there we go. So have a look at this tracking window in the top left here. And this image should not move. This image should stay 100% static as we scrub through. If it moves, it means the track is slipping. So you can see there it's moving, definitely. And as we go through here, it's also kind of moving over here. You can have a look at this section right over there. As I'm scrubbing, that's bouncing a little bit all over the place. So I would retrack this, not using this as an area, but maybe try using this foreground element as a section over here, because this isn't a corner which is getting affected by some things, and it's probably not the best thing to track here. Okay, so let's move back a little bit. I just need to rearrange some cables here, sorry. Oh, okay. So let's go back here. First thing, let's look at the first thing that we've comped in here. Whoa, hang on. Okay, no problem. Is our, what is this thing called? Our rubble hole. Now, right off the bat, I can tell you that this is too dark and it's too sharp. And I can just, it's quite easy to really, I mean, if you look at these black levels and these black levels here, we can even expose up. You'll see that all of a sudden this is becoming like very weirdly dark and sharp. So let's quickly go here. Let's go to our grade tool, and I'm going to go to this black level here, and I'm just going to just pull that up. Actually, what that's showing me here is that it's also a little pink for some reason. So let's just counter that until we have something like that. I think this looks and works a little bit better. We can even go up a little bit more. It still feels a bit pink. There we go. That's better. And I think that's sitting a lot better in your scene right now. It might be a little too grey, but we can always just drop that back. Okay, so there we go. What's going on here? Some weirdness happening there. Don't transform after your track. Don't ever do that, because it'll just, that actually might be why it feels like your track is broken. Might be because you are transforming after your track. So let's just put that back there. Okay. Moving on. This also, I need to blur this. This needs a blur node. This definitely feels too sharp. So let's put a blur node there of 1 pixel, even 1.5 pixels. There we go. Much better. Okay, moving on to the second element, which is this rubble, which you've rotoed, you've pre-malted it, you've graded. Always pre-malt after the grade. Never grade after the pre-malt. Okay, and let's merge that in there. Okay, so now it's quite, did this change anything? Let's just see. Nothing's visibly different. Okay, so we can see that it's too sharp, that its black levels are too dark, that just doesn't really sit in the scene here very well. So let's start by looking at this. Definitely need to blur this. Where's your, that's your tracking, is that your tracker? That's your tracker, great, it's the last guy. Let's add a blur, let's do like 1 pixel. Let's do, where are you, 1.5, there we go, that's definitely sitting much better. Let's go here to, I like my color creators. You're adding like an orange or like a blue tint to the dark shadows. I'm not seeing that, but I can see that it's what you're doing. What happens when I disable this? Okay, so basically with this, okay, you've desaturated it quite a bit. I'm definitely gonna, let me not mess with this too much. Okay, I'm gonna go back here to the grade node, to my black levels. Come on, give me the, there we go. And I'm just going to up that to a little something a little bit more like that. And I can see that it's becoming blue now, so I just need to counter that here. Okay, I think that's looking a little bit better. It still doesn't have shadows now. A very nice trick to do shadows, right? Is so we have the alpha channel from this guy. There it is. We've got an alpha channel, so we can use that alpha channel to create a little shadow. So I'm going to put a color corrector right here, right? And I'm going to just, using the mask, grab that alpha and just color correct that down. Oh wait, hang on, here. I'm just going to color correct that down. Actually, give me the blurred version. Actually, don't give me the blurred version, I'm going to blur it even more. And by blurring this slightly more, this is a little trick, and transforming it ever so slightly, like 2 pixels down, like that. And now I actually have a little shadow that I've created for this object, and this really adds a lot of depth. As soon as you start seeing things float, it's probably because they don't have shadows, and this is really a very efficient and easy way to just quickly recreate a little bit of a contact shadow. Okay, we've got a fire which now is not sitting right because I went and I moved this hole at some point. Sorry about that. That's my bad. I broke that. That looks fine. I'm going to skip this. Okay, now you chucking in noise here. What is this where you're copying it into the backwards U? Okay, and that's just to drive the distortion node. Let's have a look at this noise. This noise is quite harsh, and that's probably why this distortion node is so sorry, I just need to give myself a little bit more space here. Okay, there we go. And you know what you can do to fix that kind of really harsh breakup is, okay, well, maybe this UV scale is too much. Maybe it's just a little too heavy. But you can also just blur it. And if you put a blur node here, you don't want to be blurring everything, right? You just want to be blurring that backwards U. And have a look at that. It's actually softening that quite a lot. So now if I push it up all the way to where you had it, it's some really high number, I can just blur it. And that's going to take away those strange artifacts that you saw. What is this doing? Okay, it's just limiting it to that area. Okay, great. Cool, next up we've got the robot. Let's look at our robot. How you kind of went about comping this guy. We've got our color, we have our AO pass, ambient occlusion pass multiplied on top, color correcting here, grading here. Yep, this is all correct. Blurring it, I wouldn't blur here, I'll always blur after my pre-malt. So I'm just gonna move that, get that guy out, pop it over here. I like to blur after my pre-malt because if you don't also blur the alpha, you kind of chop off your blur on those edges. So I like to kind of blur afterwards so that it melts, kind of melts in with whatever I'm merging it on top. Well, it's kind of what I feel is happening. Again, you've got a transform here at the end, which is in front of your tracker, or sorry, after your tracker. You always want that over here. And you see, this is also the problem of working really on top of each other, is you can't, like, I can't build this down. So I have to do this just to give myself a bit of space. Okay. Right. Okay. So now we have this. Now something that's happened here. Okay. Firstly, our black levels, our blur is quite high. I wonder why it's not. Okay. So the reason why this blur is so high, but it's still not really doing what you want it to do, is because you're blurring a massive image, a tiny bit, and then you're making it really small. Then you're scaling it down and repositioning it. While the problem here is that now if you reposition it, it's going to affect, if you scale it up, it's going to affect how the blur works. That's why you always want to blur right at the end so that your blur is always consistent. Doesn't matter how much you transform this guy, he's always going to be blurred at a consistent amount, and that's why this is going to look quite a lot better. Okay, pre-malting, transform, track, blur. Let's look at the color correctors here. Now, I feel like this is a little too red in terms of the black levels, so I'm going to go ahead and take this black point and just push a little bit back on this red here. I just felt like it was a little too intense for what I want, what I think it would look like, but it's subjective, you know, unless this is a shot, unless you're cutting away from 3 other shots where we're going closer and to this robot and we see it in different angles where obviously the color has to match. It's very difficult to know where it really should sit. One thing that some other guys did really well is they found a way to include this over here, the black level over here, and to bring that in here, because over here you can see using the alpha, keeping the alpha from this guy. This doesn't have alpha, or it does because it's standing on a white piece of board, but and they actually kept that alpha and they copied it back in here. So I was quite impressed by how the guys figured that out. I want to show you quickly what they did here. Use the keyer to extract, now this is alpha, to extract this, and then they copied it, they did a channel merge, and they copied that back on top. Where's my alpha? Here it is. Of course, they're going to have to invert this to get this. And what happens here, where's my alpha? There's my alpha. This is overriding it. So what happens, what's quite nice is that you're going to get the alpha from these shadows here. And that works quite well. Let's just go here to this multiply operator and go from my I just want RGB. Hang on. How did this work? Okay, so I think the reason why this is not working is because I am merging the keyed in here. So there we go. Now that I have my alpha, not this, but I'm also including this alpha that I'm getting from the key here, it actually allows me to also merge the contact shadow onto the ground. And so the difference here is over here is this contact shadow really makes a big difference in the believability of this robot. Okay, so I think that's it. There's a couple of other things over here that we can also talk about. What's happening here? That guy looks quite good. You know, I'd like to have a little bit of shadowness there, but I'm not sure how I would do that. The explosion, right? The explosion is a tricky one because it has these gray edges to it, and that's just unfortunately how it is. So, and you're doing the right thing here to erode it, but you're eroding it after the pre-malt. Remember that the pre-malt is applying any changes that you do to the alpha, so it doesn't help if you change the alpha after the pre-malt. You're going to have to first erode and then pre-malt. Otherwise, you're going to get strange artifacts. Why is that not working? Oh, there we go. It is working. Otherwise, you're going to get strange artifacts. So definitely always first erode, then pre-malt. This looks correct. Yep, this looks... that is your vignette, I believe. There we go. This is your Luma key. Oh, what is happening here? This is slow. I think this is one of your lens effects that you're doing here just before the alpha. There we go. Sorry, before the flare, and then your color correctors. Now, the flare, I don't like the colors in the flare. It's maybe just a personal thing, but I would just like totally just desaturate this flare. It just feels like it's way too colorful for what's happening in the shot. Something else, it also feels really, really sharp here. So, you know, a couple of ways is you can fix it inside the flare, or you can just pop a blur node right there and just go like 3, and that'll just soften that out and make it look way more believable. And that's it.